50. Alright, so I think we're live. We should be live right now. We should be live right now. Yep, we live. So just earlier I was let me make this real quick. I didn't know if I wanted a seed or not. If I wanted to pick the bamboo forest or no. Or I don't know. I don't know what I should go for, but I was just thinking about creating a new one. I know I was making a series earlier, but dude, I do not know. Cause I just found out that they be having raids now. What the heck? I was going crazy. The raid noise be loud as hell though, like, damn. But hold up. Nah, it's cool. It's cool. I wanted to get the bamboo one, actually. But nah, let's just try. Let's try our luck. Okay, let's see what we get. I was listening to this earlier. Hold up.
The Joe Rogan experience.
Hey, wait, this reminds me of when you talk about that island, that private island, you know,
Yes.
Sentinel
North
Sentinel Island.
Yeah.
Planes still fly over that, or no? Are they not allowed to fly over that as a restricted airspace?
I don't think it's restricted. No.
Damn.
But you can't land there, and you can't circle.
Right.
You can't visit.
India owns it, right? Doesn't India control it?
So.
Yeah, and it's like 10-mile radius. I saw a thing online that said a boat crashed there. You can still see on Google Images the remnants of the boat.
Yeah, they came for the people in the boat too, and the helicopters got them off the boat right as the people were like pulling up in
so they lived.
rafts and shit. Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, they lived, but the villagers were coming for them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you imagine stumbling across a village?
They've been fucked with sometime in the past. You know that Commander Maurice Vidal Portman.
Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah.
Shout out to Respectable Law on Twitter. He has
Shout out.
a giant thread about it, maybe pinned on the top of his Twitter page, but explaining like one of the reasons why those people are so hostile.
Right.
And it has to do with this British explorer who was really kinky, and
You went there to fuck.
yeah, who knows?
You
what
wanted
he
Fuck
did.
Island?
Who knows what he did? But people got sick because of him. You know, I had this guy Graham Hancock on.
Yeah.
And he was talking to me about all the different shit that they're finding in the Amazon and in South America, and that there used to be 20 million people that lived in the Amazon, and they died off because of sickness. They were visited mostly.
Hell no.
Apparently, Europeans, when they came in like the 1500s,
I'm acting like I'm surprised. I've heard this shit. I just watched this shit.
But then when explorers came back 200 years later, there was nothing there. And they were like, it's crazy. They lied. They must have lied. It turns out they didn't lie.
Yeah,
What happened was smallpox ran through the fucking jungle and
White
killed everybody.
We did it.
And then the jungle just overtook these cities. And now they're finding these cities with something called LiDAR. They use these planes and they circle over this area, or helicopters, whatever the fuck they do, and they shoot this shit down, this LiDAR. It's like laser radar, and it gives you a detailed image of what's below the surface and what's there.
Shit.
And it shows them all these crazy structures, all these like roadways and irrigation systems and circles inside of a square. Like it was villages and cities, and millions of people probably lived there. And look at it, that's all stuff they're finding now.
What?
Yeah, and all of it was swallowed up by the jungle.
Shit.
They think within like 100 years.
Y'all ain't
just
seen it,
vanished
but
in the
y'all
jungle.
hearing it.
Because it's so lush and tropical down there. Dude, it was one of the most amazing podcasts I've ever done. Listen to that guy tell the story.
Right after this one, though.
No, you are the best. You're the best.
This is kind of well. This is like the findings of Atlantis, right? Like when they started finding, you start finding more and more land
Have you seen
underground.
this? They found traces of 5 drugs, including dimethyltryptamine, 1,000-year-old South Pole ritual kit.
DMT,
So
baby.
that's like proof positive
DMT, baby.
evidence that at least 1,000 years ago they were using ayahuasca.
Some trees.
This is the drug pouch that was made from fox snouts. That sounds so crazy.
Fox
Like,
nose.
it literally look when you see it, it looks like a
Whoa, they used everything.
And the fur is still intact. It looks really nice.
The nose. I wonder why they do that with a fox. It's probably like some cleverness. Do you know that that's what a shaman, that's like literally what a shaman is supposed to, that's what the definition is supposed to be in certain cultures?
Huh.
Certain cultures, it's a clever fellow. That's who the shaman is.
Okay, it kind of makes sense. They are just clever fellows.
But I mean, imagine that. Like, he takes a fox, that clever little fucker. I'm gonna take his face.
I want his
hide
fucking
my
face.
drugs in his face. Only a person would think to do something so
I hide my
creepy.
drugs in this
Or
thing's
an
nose.
insect.
chipmunk cheeks.
Yeah, right?
I need your meat, man.
That hangs from your belt. It's just chipmunk cheeks with all your coins in it. Yeah, I
Oh
mean,
shit. That's crazy though. Man. Imagine. You go to the Amazon. You just chilling, you know. Walking through the forest. I don't know what the fuck you doing over there anyways, but you just chilling, walking through the forest. All of a sudden you just see a village. But shouldn't be that crazy, but you didn't know nobody lived out here because it's the Amazon. So it is kind of crazy at the end of the day. Hold up, I just want to know. I'm just trying to find a village right now. Give me a village. One. Just somewhere near it at least. I'm gonna die of fucking hunger. Never mind. I need to get my shit together. Get my shit together. Just play this real quick
I guess that's
while I
like
get my
what
shit
it must be,
together.
just be in the Amazon itself as well, right? And the lakes or whatever's out there, but the actual jungle itself,
It was incredible. The jungle there. So we were in Colombian Amazon, and like talk about untouched by people. There's been this kind of ongoing conflict in Colombia for many, many years. So we were the first Westerners to go there in over 60 years. So the village we flew into, they'd literally never seen white people before. And then we went 200 kilometers from that. So like middle of nowhere.
did they want to touch you?
So yeah, hair. Because their hair was very dark and very different. And like I'm not particularly fair, but just to touch like the hair and see the blue eyes and stuff, they were just
Were they
loving
friendly?
it. Super friendly. Like the culture was very stoic. Like there wasn't a lot of smiling or crying. You know, there wasn't like a lot of emotional exchange. But straight away, someone greeted us, like shook hands.
Oh,
said
berries.
hello. It was really cool.
Wow, that's gotta be. Now, how do you set something like that up? Do you have like a liaison that like acts as a go-between between you and the tribe?
Yeah, so we did in this case have one guy who communicated. I speak Spanglish, I guess, and they all speak Spanish from back in the day. So we set it all up. It's part of the wildlife
I
stuff.
eat it?
We flew a DC-3, a World War II cargo plane, into this cocaine dealer's airstrip.
What?
And then that's how we got there. I mean, like mind-blowing stuff.
Current cocaine dealer or former?
Former. Yeah. Well, you know,
Who knows?
TBD.
It's still Colombia, right?
Exactly.
Sure, that's a change.
That one was really cool, really remote.
How crazy is it that they learned Spanish from people who came over on boats from Spain and it just stuck?
Isn't that nuts? And took over the whole, like,
Region?
yeah, the whole world. And here's this tribe in the middle of the Amazon that has this language from another continent.
Well, and Brazil, right? It's really incredible when you stop and think about it. I mean, it's incredible, but it's also part of it's a little sad. Like, wouldn't you have loved to have heard what their original language was?
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
what it sounded like?
Well, they did. So it's funny because when they didn't want us to understand what they were talking about, they would switch to their native Indian language. So they still had they were bilingual. A community of 25 people that have never left, and they're bilingual.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Now, their native language is what? What is it?
It's an Amazonian Indian dialect. I honestly don't even... They might have said the name, but I don't recall.
What is the name?
Also, I'm not even sure. They're so isolated, they're unaware of what country they live in. They don't even know that they're in Colombia. Really. They're just like, to them, they're Amazonian. They're not Colombian, Ecuadorian, Brazilian. They're Amazonian.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So they just stay. Like
Stay.
where they are, they stay.
And the village we were in is literally, I think it's over 200 kilometers from the next village of 15 or so people, and they don't have fuel, they don't have motors, they're just in this pocket, and they just subsistence live.
And they're all barefoot, right?
Yeah.
Do they have those crazy splayed out feet?
Big feet, you know,
Yeah.
because they're not very big people. They're like small Indian people, but really big, kind of useful feet. And the way that, you know, they could run up and down trees and climb stuff, I mean, it was unbelievable. Like, so much more athletic than you could imagine.
Well, imagine, right? They've been doing that their whole life.
Their whole lives, yeah.
Now, when I say splayed out feet, what I'm talking about is that people that walk barefoot in the jungle for long periods of time with their whole life, their toes spread out and their feet almost look like a hand.
Oh, no way. I did not, like, pay enough attention. That might have been the case, but I didn't notice it.
Their feet.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is kind of a weird thing to stare at dudes' feet.
Yeah, for sure.
But, yeah, Steve Ranella, who's a good friend of mine.
Yeah, that is kind of
was in
weird.
Guyana, and it's the same thing. They actually got some pictures and videos of these people's feet. But look at these guys up there.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't
Oh
notice it.
hell no!
Yeah.
Deformed as fuck.
How do you say?
If y'all wanna go see the feet, go to Forrest Galante's Crazy Stories from the Amazon. 406. That shit look ugly.
That.
Hey, but just wanna say, do what you gotta do. Respect, you know, respect.
Horani?
Sounds right.
Horani, you think?
Guarani.
Horani Indian splayed feet. So it's very strange. Like
Oh,
it's
no.
kind of the opposite of what happens to women when they jam their feet into those little pointy shoes,
Right.
where they get the toes kind of smush onto each other.
Ballet feet.
Yeah, it's horrible. Instead of that, they're all like crazy spread out. What in the fuck is going on there? The guy's
The
got
top is hands, I think.
wood. Yeah, the top's hands, but the bottom is like wood feet.
But that's got to be like what our feet are supposed to be.
Probably right.
Right?
Yeah. Thick ass toes that actually have muscles in them that move.
That you can use like
Thick
a tool
ass
with your hand.
toes.
Yeah. So and these
I got
guys
some
just can
thick
climb
ass
up
toes.
trees with them, so they grip the side of the tree with their feet.
Thick
like a
ass
hand.
toe.
Oh, I mean, I didn't notice, like I say, the feet just like that specifically, but the way they could, like, everything's covered in mud down there, right? It's all wet, it rains every day, and they could run up and down these tree trunks, like, to get up and down the village, and here's me and my crew with our awkward cameras and stuff, and we're slipping and sliding and falling over, and, like, they're literally like, what's wrong with these people? Why can't they walk? We must have looked like infants to them.
Right, and you guys probably have like boots on and shit.
Of course.
Muddy and fucked up. And,
Oh, totally. Yeah, we're wearing, you know, muck boots, and my one buddy's got waders on, and, you know, we think we're all hard and cool because we got all this gear, and they're just, like, running around in shorts barefoot.
It is so fascinating when you see people that don't have contact with the outside world. Like, I'm sure you're aware of that recent story. The missionary was killed by the people in North Sentinel Island.
Absolutely.
Which is one of the weirdest places because they branched off from Africa 60,000 years ago or something like that.
Right.
When you're around these people, like, what do they do if
Where
they
did I
get
come
injured?
down from?
So, funny you asked that because we kind of had that same question, right? And they don't leave. They stay in the village. They have a shaman at the village who blessed us with a crazy green powder, and that's a whole nother story. But they have a shaman, and he is their doctor. However, he has no access to any Western medicine. So it's only his learned knowledge handed down through generations, plus jungle powders and whatnot. And that's it. So we spent a day, because we had a medic with us, doing like kind of village help, if you will. Everybody had ringworm. Everybody had respiratory infections. There were a lot of lady problems in the to deal with. I mean, there was a lot of health issues, and you don't even realize it.
Write something down before I forget. I'm sorry, it's totally unrelated. But
No, all good.
There's a doctor named Peter Hotez that's coming on the podcast now to follow up on him. When you start talking about the the people in the jungle. He's an actual a doctor who is he specializes in infectious diseases in jungle and tropical climates, and he's like, everyone's infected with something.
Everyone. He'd have a
100%.
heyday down there.
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably been.
Yeah.
But so when these people have ringworm and all these different infections, do they treat it? Do they have like some naturopathic cure or some shit?
I think it's kind of a 50-50. Like, a lot of it they don't treat because it's just part of everyday life. Like, when I say everybody had ringworm, I meant everybody had it. So I don't think there was any kind of treatment or cure. It was just kind of part of it, part of them.
Huh.
But other things, you know, the witch doctor or the shaman was trying to treat. And then we kind of went in and we had like medication for ringworm, so we dewormed everybody. And with the shaman's blessing, and he was like super excited to have Western medicine in the village. And
Would you use like Lamisil or something like that?
I couldn't tell you. I think it wasn't topical. I think it was like a Vermox, like a pill that you take that kills the worms.
The weird thing about that is like, don't you leave and then they're gonna get it again, right?
I mean, there's only so much you can do, right? Yeah, totally. We were having the same dilemma, and it was like, do we interfere because we're from the outside world? Do we help? And we talked to the shaman through our translator, and he said, please help, please help. So we gave, including him, everybody this dewormer, but, you know, they'll just come back.
Yeah, and also they probably don't understand the consequences of taking some antibiotic that's gonna do some weird shit to your whole biome, right?
Right. And
Kills
these are all the
good stuff too.
It's such a moral dilemma. You're there and you're like, I want to help. Do I? Is it helpful? Is it hindering?
Yeah.
Our medic was like, it's undeniably going to help. You know, they need this. And so we went for it, and it was, you know, it seemed to help. Everybody felt fine, but we were only there a couple more days before we left. So who knows?
Wow. Now, when you're talking about ringworm, like, are these guys covered in it? They have big patches of it? Like, what's it like?
Feet and legs had big patches of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is, if you don't know, that's the same shit that's athlete's foot.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, ringworm and athlete's foot are the same kind of funk.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's why people tell you to pee on your feet.
Oh, I thought that was just for fun.
It could be for fun. Depends on what you're into. But I think that's the idea behind it, is that you're somehow or another you're killing the bad bacteria. When you piss on your feet and you have athlete's foot. That might be horseshit. Maybe. Yeah.
Hey, when he say that, if I pee, nah, fuck it.
With me, you always have to check. Yeah, definitely give that a little look-see. But it's a real common thing in jiu-jitsu.
Gotcha.
So guys,
Just all the mats.
yeah, it's real common. So just guys get it, and there's people really fuck up where they like put bleach on it and a bunch of different things to try to kill it, and it winds up getting worse, and also fucks up all the natural skin flora. Jock itch, athlete's foot, and ringworm are all types of fungal skin infections known collectively as tinea. They're caused by fungi called dermatrophytes that live on the skin, hair, and nails and thrive in warm, moist areas, the jungle. So it seems like they're just gonna get it.
That's just what it sounds like. You know, but still trying to help.
What do they do for it?
I didn't see them treating that at all. And when we pointed it out, they were like, yeah, we know about it. You know, they were more concerned with things that were like dire. Like there was an infant, maybe not infant, maybe 3 years old, and he was hacking up a lung. And he was asthmatic, according to our medic. So our medic gave him like an asthma medication, and he just said, you know, if he has an attack where he can't breathe, give him this. And like, you know, to be super real with you, when we walked away, our medic was like, I doubt he'll live to see adulthood.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And were you giving him inhalers? Did you give him?
I'm not sure, to be honest, what it was that he left with him.
And what about like injuries? What if they break a leg or something like that? What do they do?
I don't think anything. Yeah.
Was anybody? I mean, you gotta think these people are climbing trees. They must
Constantly. Fall, get bitten by stuff. There's tons of venomous snakes out there. It's wet, it's muddy, it's slippery. They're building stuff out of very rudimentary tools. I mean, it's nuts. They have to get injured.
It's so interesting that we have this understanding of medicine and doctors and hospitals, but that's probably pretty fucking recent.
Oh, of course, yeah. I'll tell you a story, Joe. I was in Myanmar late last year, and we're down there filming this thing, and this kid, like 22-year-old crab fisherman, gets bitten by a crocodile.
Oh.
Croc grabs him by the arm, grabs him by the thigh, death rolls. So it breaks the arm in like, I don't know, 15 minutes away. It's kind of one of the similar situations where we're the first Westerners to be there in a long time. We go bombing over at high speed, and we get there, and the mom is like off mourning the death of her child, but her child is sitting there still alive. Like they have written him off, and mom is literally mourning the death of her child, and he's lying there conscious, but like in total shock. Fortunately, just because of the situation, we had a speedboat, everything else. We bandaged him up, tried to keep his arm stable and his leg stable, put him in our speedboat, and it was 6 hours by speedboat to a village that to a hospital, really. And so he got there, and his life was saved. But we asked the people in the village, what were you going to do? And they're like, there's nothing we can do. Wow. So he was just going to bleed out or go septic, and that was the end of it.
Damn.
What a fucking rough way to go.
Right.
How did he get away from the crocodile?
I don't know. I think he was just hitting it or hammering on it. He was crab fishing in the water, and it came up and grabbed him, rolled a few times, and at some point he escaped. How he even got back to the boat and made it back to the village, I have no idea, because his leg was shattered, his arm was shattered. It was brutal. And it was a canoe, it wasn't like he had a little motor or a wheel to drive. Canoed back.
One of the most disturbing stories I ever read was these guys were kayaking in an African river, and the guy in front of them got grabbed by a crocodile, and that it went under, and it plunged like a bobber as the crocodile pulled him out of the bottom of the kayak.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck.
That's awful.
Imagine being the guy behind him and watching that
Just
shit.
watching, and knowing that you're pretty much helpless.
Did you see any jaguars or anything?
I've never seen a jaguar. I've seen a lot of lions. I'm from Africa. I don't know if you knew that, but so I've seen a lot of lions growing up. My family did safaris, and then I've seen mountain lions here in California, leopards, stuff like that. I've never seen a wild jaguar.
Really?
Yeah.
Even when you were in the Amazon?
I think they're really elusive. I know there's areas that are hot spots. All of the locals were very nervous and kind of knew about them. Like, I went out for bushwalks at night and stuff, and I'd just go me and one guy with a camera, and they were like, "Whoa, be careful, like peligroso, very dangerous, don't do it." But
Peligroso means very dangerous?
peligroso, like
Peligroso.
danger, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so we just go, and I'm not trying to act like we were tougher than them or anything. We would love to have seen one, but they were very aware of them, so they were there. We just didn't happen to run into one.
Sort of like mountain lions.
Exactly.
Yeah, like they say that mountain lions are, like if you live in a place that has them, Wyoming or Colorado or something like that, they know where you are.
Right.
They might be around you all the time, and you might rarely see them. Like
Exactly.
maybe driving home and see one skittering into the bush.
There was a nuts video, I think it was from the LA area. Did you ever see it, where the security cams picked up this mountain lion that was walking through this very residential neighborhood, and you'd see people would walk by, and then 30 seconds later he'd dip out of the shadows and then dip back in, and then the next set of people would walk by and nobody had any clue he was there.
It's crazy that a giant predator can move around like that.
Right.
Yeah, so when you're there, what would you have done if someone got bit by a venomous snake or a spider or something like that? Did you guys have an anti-venom? Were you prepared for something like that?
I mean, that's my department, right? Like, as the wildlife guy, that's kind of my department, is make sure nobody gets bitten, make sure nothing like that happens. And we handled very many venomous snakes and caught anacondas and all kinds of great stuff. We did have, my main camera guy, his name's Mitch, he got absolutely lit up by these wasps one night, and we all were. We got 12, 14 stings each, but I looked back in the canoe at one point, and his eyes were just super swollen, he's bright red, he's sweating. I'm like, Mitch, you okay? He's like, His throat started to close up. He was having an allergic reaction. So we had to hit him with antihistamines, and I'm not actually sure if the medic administered the EpiPen or not, but he was we're in the middle of the jungle, we're 6 hours from a village that's then a full day's travel by a charter plane from a hospital. I mean, middle of fucking nowhere, and his throat's closing up, and that's why we take a medic with us. Thankfully, we had this emergency medic. He administered the antihistamines, and Mitch was okay. But these things do happen.
Do you ever, while you're on these crazy adventures, you ever out there going, this is the last one?
Nah, never. No way.
Never?
No way, man. I love it. I live for it.
Wow.
Hold up. Let me pick something again. Just trying to. What the fuck? JFK warned us about secret societies.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
That is the place. Like, I think if I had the choice, if there was one place where I could go in a time machine, just peek for like an hour, just look around, and then come back to the present day, I think that would be the spot. It was like when they were building the pyramids, like in the middle of construction, when they were at their peak, when they were building the Great Pyramid of Giza. Like, what was society like? Like, what were the people like? You could just be a fly on the wall, and no one knew you were there. See, if they saw you, they'd be like, "What are you doing? What is this thing on your wrist? Who are you? Why your teeth look so good? How come you don't look deformed?"
I'd go back to the I'd be on the grassy knoll that day, JFK.
Oh yeah, that's a good one
Dallas.
too.
I
That's a good one
just
too. Would you be on the grassy knoll, or would you be in the book depository? See, if you're in the book depository, then you know that Lee Harvey Oswald isn't there.
I think he may have even been there. I think he may have even been firing, but I don't believe that he was the only one.
I'm with you. That's exactly what I think. I think he could have been in on it, and maybe he didn't even fire it.
Right.
But when he said that he was a patsy, you know, the way he said it, when he got arrested, he said, "I'm just a patsy." That's like a guy who knew he was going to get in trouble for something.
Yeah.
That's not like a regular guy. He was not a regular guy. They easily could have talked him into doing something fucked up, and then they did something as well and blamed it all on him, and they had him set up for it.
Yeah.
He seemed like a wacky dude.
Someone that did that and made that shot and really wanted him dead would own it. Quite the opposite. At that point, you're not trying to not go to prison.
Well, maybe he is, but it didn't seem like it. He didn't seem like a guy who just shot someone. He also didn't seem like a guy who was shocked that he was getting arrested for something. But you could make someone a patsy back then. That was real. You could set someone up, and then you hired Jack Ruby to just run up on the guy and shoot him. And he just did it. Now the guy's dead. Jack Ruby drops the gun. They put him in a nice jail cell. I don't know if it was a nice jail cell. I have no idea.
And then what happened to Jack Ruby? Something happened to him.
Died in jail. Got cancer.
How much you know about those three guys that they thought might have been it?
Maybe that's John Connor.
The three hobos or the three
Yeah.
guys under the bridge?
Well, one of them was Woody Harrelson's dad.
Yeah, they were in the CIA, I read, or they thought
Something.
they were. Who knows?
Look, Kennedy was not a popular guy by any stretch of the imagination with a giant chunk of the population. Think about if as many people hate Trump right now. If that's only like, I mean, I don't know how many people hate him, but I know that the Bay of Pigs was a huge disaster. A lot of military people hated him for that. Supposedly he wanted to get rid of the NSA. Supposedly he wanted to get rid of, he wanted to do something about the Federal Reserve. There was a lot of things that he wanted to do, apparently. Maybe it was the CIA. I think it was the CIA. He was trying to disband. One of those. But he had a disdain for secrecy and secret societies. You know, like there was a lot of these like skull and bones type things that like George W. Bush was in, or Herbert Walker Bush, rather, his dad. Was George G.W. in Skull and Bones too?
They both.
Yeah, I mean, all that wacky shit. Like, what are you doing? You dressing up like a druid? What are you doing? Are you burning an effigy? You know, a lot of people thought that was all fake until Alex Jones and John Ronson was with him, right? Yes.
I don't know who was with him, actually.
Yes. I'm pretty sure. Google that. Make sure I'm right. I'm pretty sure it was Ronson. I'm pretty sure Ronson was. I know it was. He was talking about it. He was talking about it on the podcast. About, you know, like that they couldn't believe what they found. So there's this place, Bohemian Grove, and the idea was that all the elites would go there and they would engage in these occult rituals.
This is in America?
Yeah, it's in California.
Oh.
It's like Northern California. And so you hear about this and you're like, what? Like if you heard, like, hey, there's a place. Former presidents go, top-ranking generals and heads of state, bankers, famous artists, they go to this place and they do occult rituals, perform occult rituals.
Episode or part 4 of The Secret Rulers of the World, directed by John Ronson. He travels with Alex Jones.
There you go.
Is that on Netflix?
I don't know where you can find it at the moment. It was on.
You can definitely see it on YouTube.
Right.
You can definitely see the interaction on YouTube. So Alex films these people worshiping Molech, the owl god, and doing this thing. He completely sneaks sneaks in, just acts like he belongs there. Just let him in. They have a gate, guarded gate. Just fucking, hey, how you doing? He looks like a Republican. They let him through. He is there filming them. They have an effigy, like a bunch of straw and shit that's supposed to represent a person that you're sacrificing to Moloch the owl god. They're dressed in these crazy hoods. They put the effigy down. They say they have those loudspeakers. They have this crazy speech they give. It's so weird, but these are like legitimate, wealthy, famous people, politicians. These people are heads of banks and shit, and they're going there and they're dressing up. This is real. Like, this isn't like you hear things like that. You're like, well, that's nonsense, right? That's nonsense. That doesn't really happen. There's not really no way to build a burning. They don't really get together and fucking pretend they're burning hookers.
They really do.
They really do. Yeah. And so he films this. And like, it's one of the first things that got me thinking about conspiracies. As much as you can think that Alex is a wacky guy, he's certainly eccentric, and he's not always right. You know, and that's part of the problem when you're being lied to left and right by so many different things. You can get real off on things, and he did.
Right.
He's gotten, he's been beaten into the ground. But the fact is that there are a certain amount of these things out there like that. And if it wasn't for Alex releasing that video, I think most people would think that's nonsense. But when you see that video, you have to go, okay, what is this? What is going on? Are they really dressing up? Is this really an occult ritual? What is this? Have you ever seen it?
No.
Show a video Bohemian Grove, just so we can watch it.
The pictures and stuff. So
I remember.
Yes, it's really blurry and.
Yeah, but well, you'd have to hear it too. It's just like a booming loudspeaker. Let's see what you can see. It's kind of blurry, but he's got. I mean, there's like, it's famous, this place.
So do you think these people all work with each other?
So he's got this hidden camera footage of these people with torches dressed up like trees all over, and they're carrying the effigy, and they sacrifice it and light it on fire.
Oh.
Dude, this is like
Whoa.
really rich, famous, powerful people are all here watching this. Look at that. Back that up so we can hear what it's, or we can read what it says. Back it up a little bit.
I just got other stuff talking over too.
Yeah, but I don't want to hear it, Jamie. I just want to see the writing.
Yeah, well, it keeps going.
Yeah, but can't you? No. What I'm saying is, make it so I can't hear it. En masse rends the stones of Babylon. Like, so they're like, what do they even say? Play it out a little bit. Like, look at this. For beauty is eternal. So they have this, and we bow to beauty everlasting. It's a very strange shit. So they're yelling this out. This guy's got this on a loudspeaker, and they're engaging in this ritual. And then they bring over this effigy and they light it on fire. They have a boat in the water. Like, it's weird, dude. Just imagine being a guy who's worth $1 billion, and this is what you do for fun. You're gonna get together with Mike and Harry, who runs Microsoft, and you're all gonna go and pretend you're burning something. Like, look at this.
But did they become billionaires and then do this, or is it a chicken and the egg?
That's the question. That's what people think about the elites, right? People think they're, well, and in some families, it is true,
I mean,
right?
if these people are all meeting up once a year to burn a stack of hay shaped like a lady, why wouldn't they invest in each other and,
Of course.
they're all bankers and successful?
Yeah. Well, that was the thing about Skull and Bones, is that they all had something on you. Everyone knew something, because you all sucked everybody's dick and
Right.
took Polaroids of it, dressed up like a munchkin. You know, I mean, that's what they all did. They did some wacky shit.
It's
Like,
hard to
probably all
think.
got fucked.
It's hard to think like what you could have had on somebody before porn search history.
They probably all fucked each other. There probably was one guy who was like the top Skull and Bones guy, who's just really into fucking dudes, and he just convinced everybody, you know, it'd be a crazy thing, man. How do we have a group, super secret group, and you can't tell anybody about it? How are we gonna stop people from telling people? I know. We're gonna film me fucking him in the ass.
What the fuck?
And really, guys in the ass. That's his goal, was just to fuck guys in the ass. He's like,
Fuck
it's
guys
harder
in
and
the
harder to trick
ass.
these dudes. I didn't figure out a new way. So he comes up with this super exclusive elite club. Skull and Bones. Do you want in? Yeah, well, we gotta be able to trust you. You can trust me. I won't tell anybody. I don't believe you, Timmy. Timmy, I don't believe you. I think you can tell. We're gonna have to have something on you. Well, I mean, what do you mean?
What do you
We're
mean?
gonna have to have you do something that you don't want to do. That way,
Fuck
if
you in
say
the
about
ass.
us, tell everybody about you. I mean, I really do want to be in the club. Guarantee that's how it went down. It's crazy. One alpha gay dude just tricked a bunch of guys.
Isn't that
And if it's not Skull and Bones, maybe they don't do that. But there's a group out there that does. There's one of those groups. One of those crazy groups that's just run by dudes just donking dudes. Right now he's 35. He's still
Donkin', dude.
Everybody's like, Mike, why do you still go to school here? Someone's got to make sure.
that's how everything starts, right? All
That's
these
the boneyard.
We go.
The bone house. The bone house.
The bone house. This,
Strictest interpretation of the bone.
this dude
rules.
is.
I don't trust you.
show your commitment.
Yeah, everybody bathes in oil first. Like, why are we in oil? What's going on?
What's going on,
Just these
man?
weird fucking secret societies. You ever heard the Kennedy speech about secret societies? It's fucking creepy. When it turns out that he eventually gets murdered, it's creepy.
Did you see The Irishman? Hey.
No, didn't see it. Good. It's about yeah.
Yeah, no, it is good. So many people told me that they hated it, that I was shocked when I watched it, and it was good.
Pull up Kennedy's speech about secret societies. Because Kennedy had this speech about secret societies that many people speculated had to do with the CIA or had to do with.
The movie brings up an angle I didn't know, is that he hired his brother to become the Attorney General, and he started going after.
Yes, the mob.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, he did right after they helped him get into office. Well, here's the other thing about the Kennedys. They were drug dealers. 100%.
Bootleggers.
Yes, they were
Damn.
selling whiskey or moonshine or whatever the fuck it
The movie
was.
says the dad was too old at the time to get a hold of his sons. Like, they were trying to get old man Kennedy to tell his kids, crack the whip, get him in line, but they couldn't get to him because he was just staring out windows.
Oh, he was
Off
done
the back.
already.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Listen, man, they were illegal alcohol salesmen. They made a bunch of money selling alcohol illegally, just like a drug dealer does. Same thing. The fact that those folks went on to become this incredibly powerful family, and then two brothers get publicly assassinated, fucking A, man. Two of them. The fact that you can
That's
keep
crazy.
guys around that you know will whack somebody for you like that. There'll be a Jack Ruby or a Sirhan. Just trick a guy. Figure out what you gotta say to that guy to get that guy to run up on that dude and shoot him in the stomach.
I mean, if you put a gun to somebody's head and you tell them that if they don't do this, we're going to kill you and your family, that's it. Pretty much you got them. Especially,
Sometimes.
you know, like in the movies when they show someone a picture of their family and they show them a picture of their house or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I know where you live. I know.
I think it's more than that. I think it's guys that you can tell that they're going to do a good thing and they're going to go down in history and they're going to live in infamy, like for their own personal gain.
I just want
Like you're
this.
talking about people that are so dumb, you're willing to, you're gonna lose the rest of your life because someone's telling you to go shoot Bobby Kennedy and you're gonna do it in a restaurant in front of everybody. It was a hotel.
That was in
We actually
Chicago,
did-
right?
No, it was in LA. We actually did Fear Factor in the very hotel where he was shot because the hotel eventually shut down. I don't know how long after the assassination, but when we were there, they would rent it out for television shows. So it's like weird place, man. You walk through the kitchen where he got shot. Like he got shot in the kitchen, or they bring him into the kitchen.
Probably brought him in. I think it was in like the convention part where they're giving a speech. Meeting hall or something.
And that guy swears that he didn't kill him. But listen, play that Kennedy speech.
It's actually like a 20-minute speech. This is
Oh.
just, I think this is the main highlight we're
Okay.
hopefully looking for.
Yeah, let me
The
hear.
very word secrecy
This is
is
it.
repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, secret oaths, decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program. For from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary.
That's good.
I am not asking
You get it.
Wow.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you had just heard that if someone else was saying that instead of Kennedy, if someone else was saying those very things in front of you about how they have an open budget, their findings are all concealed, they're a tightly knit group that combines the military and science and all, you'd be like, what? Are you on Sam Tripple's podcast? Are you on tinfoil hat? What are you doing with this wacky thought? That would be the He's talking about secret society. He's talking about the military-industrial complex. He's talking about all the gears that are in play, all the pieces that are in play that are making money and causing war and deciding what information people should and shouldn't have and what overreach they're going to put into action.
He's foreshadowing everything.
I'm scared now. Man, probably this world is crazy, dog. Sometimes I hate this place.
What is Finding Hitler all about? This is a show that you're on, and it's on A&E. Is that what's on?
Yeah, A&E is the parent network. It airs on History Channel, and we just had our third season that just finished airing.
What's the thought process behind this? Is it legit? Because a lot of people are like, Finding Hitler, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
They found Hitler, he died.
Yeah, I mean,
Not really?
we don't know.
Right.
This isn't like Ancient Aliens. This is they declassified a bunch of documents. Both the Israelis, the British, and the Germans and Americans in the past 20 years have been consistently declassifying documents. And there were a bunch of specifically FBI documents that we were spending millions and millions of dollars actively searching for Hitler after the war. As was, like millions of dollars. Hoover was like, no, send more FBI agents to South America, to North Africa, go to the Canary Islands, go to Spain, trying to find out where this guy went. Tons of real FBI documents with real leads, with real informants, some is us trying to find out, sift through reality and the fiction of the allure, the mystery of that asshole.
So what's the official story? The official story is that he killed himself, right?
Yep.
He killed himself in the bunker,
Yep.
David Braun.
Yep.
And is there any photographic evidence of his death or anything?
So what the Russians got the body, and they got his skull. And when they brought it back to Moscow, nobody has ever independently verify who and what this body is. They let one genetic test occur, and the body with the bullet holes that they said was Hitler, and have said, and that's the narrative, that's the story, that's all the eyewitness accounts that are even in the vicinity of collaborating with each other, and corroborating each other's testimony. Like the closest version, because none of it seems to be very accurate, is that, okay, here's Hitler's skull, and when they did the genetic testing, it's that of a 35-year-old woman. So like, oh, well, this isn't Hitler, but they've said for the past 80 years that this is Hitler. So, okay, first, before we start throwing stones at Russia, let's go back to 1945, April, in Berlin. You have the Allies coming in, wrecking shop, dropping bombs, blowing everything up they can in every single which way. You have the Russians coming in from the opposite direction. They don't even have enough guns to arm all their soldiers. So if they have 200 guys, or 200,000 guys, they have 100,000 guns. If the guy in front of you dies, you just pick up his gun. That's what's happening in April of 1945 in Berlin. So the noose is tightening. There is no, I mean, it is chaos, anarchy, pandemonium. This is hell on earth, is Berlin, 1945. So I don't know if you could get a real story, the way that we do it now, where we have, this forensic experts that come in and document everything, and we look at all the different testimonies, say this is exactly how, it's not CSI. This is 1945 Berlin. It's crazy. So, I don't know.
So there was no absolute proof.
No.
And a lot of Nazis did escape and go to South America.
The majority of anyone with power. The Nuremberg trials were not a witch hunt, but it was to close a chapter so we could start moving forward with communism. That's what it was. The threat of fascism, the threat of Hitler, the threat of killing all the Jews, the threat of world domination by the Nazis, that threat's gone. What's the next threat?
Communism.
It's communism.
Right.
So that had to be a closed chapter of our history so we could focus our resources and our efforts to what inevitably was going to, the wall goes up. We've
Right.
East and West Berlin. We're already looking at Korea. This happens almost overnight.
Right. Very quickly.
And Patton's like, no, homies, we need to go all the way to Moscow. This is not the end of our war, and we didn't listen to him. We then have been, fighting communism for the past 75 years.
So the ones with power that went to South America, I know a bunch of them went to Argentina. They think they went to Honduras and a few other places. Where do they think they wound up?
So what you had in South America, both Chile and Argentina, back to back, had fascist regimes. You had Perón, who was part of the Nazi Party, starting all the way back in the mid-30s. He's the president of Argentina. So the Red Cross, they were there was about 3 different rat lines that guys were able to successfully get out of Europe into South America. And there's no question that we're talking thousands, if not tens of thousands of high-ranking Nazis made it there.
Tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands. And I'm not talking like little soldiers. I'm talking high-ranking Nazis. Officers, guys like Joseph Mengele and Adolf Eichmann. These are the most disgusting, despicable humans to exist at the time. If Hitler is dead, Joseph Mengele is the guy that would take syringes full of blue ink and inject them. Oh, you have blue eyes, Joe, or you have brown eyes.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can make them blue.
Oh, wow.
And then take twins and start torturing them to see if one would feel the pain. That's Joseph Mengele. That's the guy that then in South America was helping high-ranking Argentinians have abortions, and he set up, have you seen the movie Colonia?
No.
About Colonia Dignidad? Which is, if if you're listening right now, I almost warn you not to Google it, because it was a torture camp that was started by Joseph Schaefer, a Nazi, and Joseph Mengele, the doctor of death that escaped trial in Nuremberg and made it on the behest of Perón into Argentina. He set up the hospital at Colonia Dignidad, which was another safe haven for more Nazis in South America. Golda Meir and David and Ben Gurion, the presidents of Israel, they took the gloves off, and they were just sending assassins to try to find these people and kill them. But what you got in South America were isolated German-only communities. You could go into Bariloche, Argentina, and I'd be like, "Buenos dias, amigos," and they're like, "Guten Morgen?" Like, "Oh, yeah, I meant good morning. Yeah, sorry, it's 2017, right? I thought we spoke Spanish."
So, in 2017, you were there and they were speaking German.
Yeah. Whoa. Yeah. Well, I don't look very. I might look more European than I do. So it's just them seeing me walking down the street and be like, "Wow." Yeah. And there's tons of communities. I mean, if you go to Colonia Dignidad, which is now called Villa Bavaria, the Bavarian village, it is only German.
Wow.
In the center of Chile, in the mountains of Chile. Like, there's no Spanish being spoken there. It is exclusively German.
And these are the descendants of Nazis.
Powerful Nazis.
Holy shit. And this is going on right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what are these communities like? I mean, what's their ideology? Yeah, but are they like, I mean, do they espouse Nazi values or?
Not openly. So, Colonia Dignidad, if you look at the second generation, there's a bunch of, so it was a huge problem for Chile that they tried to hide for years, and they got so much power from the torturing that they did at Colonia Dignidad on a whole bunch of other high-ranking South American dictators that they are almost untouchable. And this is, I mean, you'd blow your mind if you look into this show. You'd love it. But the second generation, the kids, like the grandkids, sometimes they're even more fanatical than the original generation. Have you ever seen this? Where like if somebody's away from, like when you travel abroad, man, it's so cool to get into the culture and get into the food and get into the, like you're dancing this style and you love the flag and you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to a soccer game because we don't go to soccer games in America," and then I'm gonna go. But then maybe after like 2 months, you kind of miss home, and then like a year, like you really miss home, and then 10 years, like you really, really miss home. And you see the same thing in the United States, where it's not really a perfect assimilation. It's not the melting pot where you see generations that are espousing to be more like their ethnic heritage than they are American. They're flying the Irish flag, like I'm Irish. Well, it's just times 1,000 with these communities because they're exclusively German.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Kind of weird.
So, exclusively German and really missing home.
Yeah. Yeah. So
70 years later.
the second generations I was talking about, some of them came to the United States and were high-ranking white supremacists that are now in jail, in prison, for their racial crimes. South America. They came out of Colonia Dignidad. They came out of Bariloche. They came out of Cordoba. They came out of Misiones. They came out of, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy. So that's the show, Hunting Hitler.
Fucking A, man.
It's a rip.
How many people are we talking about all told in South America that come out of this? I mean, tens of thousands went there, but how many German communities and how big are they?
Yeah, we maybe have 50 German communities.
50. How many people? If you had to guess.
A few 100,000.
Holy shit. A few 100,000 descendants of Nazis.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And man, it's weird when you walk into somebody's parlor and it's like you're stepping back in time into Europe. Like I'm walking in, it's 2017, and I'm walking in Buenos Aires, Argentina, into somebody's parlor, and all of the tile is European, and all the style and all the art is very German. We have like deers and not like red stags. We're talking German everything, things that Hitler
This is a gift from the Pope.
Shit. Alright, stream. I'm up enough. We'll see what I can do in this world, though. One nugget buck. Peace out. Appreciate y'all for tuning in.